Welcome to another edition of Paradox TV. That's Paradox TV, Beyond Belief TV coming to you. Wow, we got some stories. Things are hotting up. It's a crazy world out there, eh? So what is it we're going to be talking about today? I have some news just in I want to talk to you about. But as well as that, you know, on the pathway of where we are, we're talking about the breakup of society at this point in time. We're talking about globalization. We're talking about people telling you a whole load of mistruths, dumbing down societies, dumbing down people, so you're just going to accept the lies and rubbish they're going to give you. We're talking about microchipping. They're talking about this, how to control the masses. We're talking about a guy who's pushing one world religion by saying that everyone's the same. Will not condemn Islam as being the issue with certainly what happened to a priest last week. And all the stabbings, apparently it's nothing to do with Islam. It is an ideology of peace. Just to show you just where we are as a society, really. I mean, one particular headline which really caught my eye, which was Byron Hamburger's branch is forced to close by far left campaigners after Chain carried out immigration sting operation on its own workers. And this really took, it took my kind of attention, and the main reason for that was I was trying to figure out what the problem was. So anyone who knows Byron Burger, which is basically an up kind of market burger eatery, basically caused a sting where they, in essence, shopped a load of employees that weren't actually legally allowed to be here to work, and in that vein were deported. So you would think to yourself, well, that's fair enough. So basically, a load of guys who weren't actually allowed to be here, weren't legally allowed to be here to actually work, were discovered and deported, and the company acted in its legal entirety, right? But out come all the jobless people who don't give a damn about anything, called the left campaigners, who thousands have joined in a demonstration outside Byron Burger branches in central London. Protesters came after activists released cockroaches and locusts into restaurant Chain on Friday. I mean, come on, right? So and this goes to show about the good and the bad, yeah. The fact of what Isaiah said about the in the end times, what they'll say, what's good is bad and what's bad is good. A load of people, and I've seen the actual videos for this, and I've got to be honest with you, none of them look like they're upstanding individuals. These protesters, they seem like these real kind of Addams Family people who haven't really got an argument other than everyone deserves to come here, everyone deserves to work. What's the big problem? Give them all benefits, doesn't matter, refugees, immigrants, whatever. I mean, they call them migrants, but a migrant is someone who migrates from another part of your own country. Immigrant is someone who comes in. Which in itself is a nonsense argument. However, just kind of goes to show the state of where we're in. Then I saw another article, which in essence, there was a story that came out on Saturday, which I haven't got actually with me, which kind of clearly defined that a free men known as trailblazers and all this stuff, they were saying that, you know, how good it is that men are able to have their bits chopped off on the NHS, and how men are wanting to carry babies and all these different stuff, and yet on the same vein, so that's deemed as being in the public's interest apparently, and men are allowed IVF and women are allowed, you know, it's a mental world really, and yet I suppose what's even dafter about it is underneath there's a story about a lady who did some undercover work, who's a Christian lady, and basically what happened was she discovered that doctors were basically were basically discriminating on abortions in relation to the sex of that particular baby, and she went to take this to court, saying this was unfair. It was not right that someone could choose. Based on the fact whether it was a boy or girl, whether or not they wanted the abortion or not, and it got dropped. It didn't go any further. It got dropped, and the main reason why it got dropped was that they decided, the people who took over the case, which I can bring up some more information on this if you wish, it was in the paper on Saturday, decided that it wasn't in the public's best interest. Anyway, which then brings me to another story, that the man who had 4 children aged 70, so how did his daughter feel about his dad being that old, and she goes on to tell about a story, how she, how people, he would come in, he would be older than all the other dads, but actually older than most other people's granddads as well, and that, what that does, it creates what the society we're in at this point in time. Man believes that he is basically God, and we live our lives with this kind of ideology that we could do whatever we want. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about other people that this affects. All that it matters is about doing what we want to do. So in essence, a guy has 4 kids, 70 years old. How do you think those children feel? You might say, well, it was my right, or whatever, but how do you think those children are grow up and are going to feel, knowing that their dad is going to be of that age? I'm 36, and my youngest daughter's 4, and I think to myself, goodness me, holding down a full-time job and doing all this stuff, how could anyone go through that at that kind of age? I think that's insane. Really do think it's insane. I couldn't have another child now. I haven't got the energy levels for it. But that's just me. Again, state of society. There's a case which is just going through where a lady, a Muslim lady, has been sexually molesting a 9-year-old girl. Her name is Miss Dar, D-A-R. And she's been jailed for 7 years. And this case kind of particularly, I suppose, grabbed my attention. And why I wanted to bring it over to you was that her solicitor, basically claimed that because this act had come out into the public, or people knew about it, that she had been shamed by her community. Thus, she didn't deserve to go to jail. Which is mental, and the reason why it again caught my attention is it brings up that card, doesn't it? That card. Oh no, she's a Muslim, therefore she's been shamed, therefore she doesn't need to be treated any different, or whatever. And it's absolutely bizarre, because why it's also really bizarre is that she doesn't believe that she's guilty, and she doesn't believe that she should be sorry. And the reason for that is she denied all charges, but was found guilty. So all the charges were put to her. She denied all those charges, which in her eyes then, if she denied them, either means that she had, she wasn't aware of what she was doing was wrong, or it's down to the ground that actually she doesn't agree that it was wrong, and actually it was the right thing, and which is sad in itself. I always enjoy reading the comments underneath, because I believe it gives a very good idea as to, this woman's only got 7 years. And what about that poor abused girl of 9 years old? How's she going to feel? How's this going to affect her life? How she's going to go through life? Unbelievable. Anyway, I've got another couple of stories here that I just want to talk to you about, and again, this gives us the idea of kind of where we are as a society and what we're going through. Western Europe is practically dead. This story was came out today by a guy called Jacques, or Jaceek Wrona, Wrona. Western Europe is practically dead. Polish terror expert lashes out EU and slams Merkel's response to jihad attacks. Now, if you're interested in what the response has been to these attacks, paraphrasing, it's pretty much been, this is normal, get used to it. There's going to be more attacks, it's normal, get used to it. which is a bit strange at best, I suppose. But a former Central Investigation Bureau officer in Poland has claimed Western Europe is practically dead and blamed Angela Merkel's migration policy for its demise. So, was this Angela Merkel's idea? No, of course it wasn't. It's all part of the globalisation. Bring the people in. Chirac said, what we did when we created a secular state, we created a dry bed of religion. And we knew what would follow would be a militant Islam. His words. This was 15, 20 years ago. They knew what they were doing then, and that's what we're seeing now. And I've got some other really interesting stories while we're on that topic. There's and I can't quite, I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'll spell it. It's DABIQ. There's this magazine which comes out, and this is the 15th edition. Caught my attention because it says, break the cross. And it's basically, this is what it said: this is why we hate you. ISIS magazine tries to justify barbaric killings of Western liberals and atheists and say Islam is violent. Well, duh. Anyone who's ever taken the time to understand the person who wrote the Quran, his name's Muhammad, by the way, wasn't written by anyone else, was written by him, would know that he acted and basically committed 100 acts of jihad. Yeah. He also married a 6-year-old girl, but that's okay because he didn't have sex with her till she was 9. Apparently Allah told him that was all cool. But the interesting thing with this is that the title, which is Break the Cross, yeah? I'm really, really sorry. All the people who follow an ideology which says that the way that Muhammad conducted himself was completely right and he was the greatest man who ever lived. The truth is, from what I can see and the evidence which is on hand, you will never break the cross. The cross will stand and it will always be there. The wheel of the cross is not broken. It is spinning and it is going faster and faster. You wouldn't believe it. So the fact of the matter is, when you say you're going to break the cross, you never will. The interesting thing is, the only reason your ideology has come this far and has got a foothold in the places it has is because of the liberalism and atheists. Yeah? Interesting enough, apparently you hate them, and they're a couple of the people. It is featured with 6 reasons why ISIS hates everyone. We hate you. First and foremost, because you are disbelievers. Yeah? And anyone who and what the Pope tries to do, or what he's trying to do, is he's trying to bring all religions down to one. So people think, all right, so it's written in the Quran, it's written in the Bible. That's the same sort of thing, right? No. Wake up. Smell the coffee. Read the books. We're running out of time. I've just got a really funny one here. This was, so, could Pokemon Go revive the Church of England? Clergy told to exploit the craze by meeting people who might not normally come to church. Vicars are told to take advantage by offering players drinks and snacks. Also urged to offer free charges for mobiles use for their church and use of the church's Wi-Fi. Clergy also warned that Pokemon Go could be used as a grooming device. And the Church of England's response following a recent decline in congregations. So basically what the church is saying is, right, Church of England's on his backside. It's on his backside because we're lukewarm. Yeah? We're kind of cold lukewarm, but we're lukewarm. And I'm not saying that from judging. I'm just telling you how it looks from the outsider's point of view, or someone looking into it. And you see a way of exploiting, or a way of getting across to people and being able to talk to people, a way of using that is through a new bit of technology where they're basically taking that, recording it, and what they're doing is they're going all around the place and it's all being recorded, and they're imprisoning you with it, and they can sell the data. This is Pokemon Go, the people, they can sell the data to whoever they want to. Read the reviews, read the small print. But I always remember this funny story. Yeah, always remember this funny story. And this should be a lesson to anyone who's listening who's part of the C of E. Yeah? There's this guy who's a preacher, and he sees this businessman. And he sees this businessman, and every time he sees him, he says, you know what, you've got to come to my church. You've got to come to my church. You've got to come to my church. The businessman's like, nah, don't want to. No, come on, you've got to come to my church. It'd be great, it'd be great. No, don't want to. See, the daft thing was the church was made of wood, right? So one night, the church catches fire. I mean, it's literally ablaze. Yeah, it's on fire. It's crazy. Anyway, so the businessman runs out, and he's just stood there. And the preacher comes over to him, or the vicar or priest or whatever you want to call him comes over to him. And he says to him, why have you come? It's too late. Why are you here now? It's too late. Can't you see what's going on? Oh my goodness, it's a nightmare. Why have you come? And he turns around and he says, well, I've never seen a church on fire before. Let me tell you, good people of the C of E, you don't need Pokemon Go. You don't need any form of rubbish. You don't need any tricks. All you need is you need Jesus in your church, you need the Holy Spirit in your church, you need the cross in your church, you need God in your church, you need to preach the gospel, and people will come. It's that simple. But all the time, you're in your lukewarmness, doing nothing, lukewarmness, playing nothing, whatever. All that's happening is people aren't interested. You turned them off. And why have you turned them off? Because you think that they want something that they don't. You're all too busy there not believing what the Bible says. You're all too busy there, yeah? In your blinking, playing Kumbaya with your guitars. That's not what people want. People want realism. They want truth. And that's why this is Paradox TV, because the truth matters. I've got some amazing stories coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned.